Ooh, and this is why we don't go to Reddit. Literally.
Well, when people think they've caught an STI, fear takes over, and where do they turn? Reddit. Today we're going to read some of these Reddit STD posts and separate the fact from the fiction. Hi, I'm Robert. I own shamelesscare.com, and I'm here with Anna.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm a physician assistant, and I'm here today to help with those facts.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about Reddit STI freakouts. Okay, now first things first, we're definitely not going to make fun of anybody. We realize that people are scared to death out there. The education on STIs is virtually non-existent. I wish people wouldn't turn to Reddit, because what happens on Reddit is that their questions are answered by other people who don't know a lot about STIs oftentimes, but who answer them with extreme levels of confidence.
Yes, they do.
And we're also going to assume that everybody, on here is from the United States, which we know isn't true. But when we're talking about testing and healthcare and things like that, the United States is what we know. And so we're going to make that assumption. All right. So now the first person wants to know if you can get HIV from giving or getting oral, because he recently gave a man a blowjob and he's freaking out about getting HIV.
Well, I get the freak out. I do. It's always scary when you have an unprotected sexual encounter. But where we're going with this is that the CDC does list the risk of getting HIV from penis and vaginal sex, which is about 4 cases in every 10,000. Yeah, 10,000, which means not a super high risk for unprotected sex to get HIV. The risk of getting HIV from oral sex is so low that they don't even list a statistical number because it's just too low. In my opinion, he's worried about the wrong STI.
Yeah, the risk is never zero, but it's as close to zero as you could possibly get, I dare say. It's nothing that he should be worried about, but yes, he is. People often make this mistake of thinking of HIV as the king of STIs and that everything else doesn't matter, when in fact, what this young man ought to be doing is thinking about things like HPV. Has he been HPV vaccinated, for example? Has he been vaccinated for hepatitis B? Not that that's super prevalent from oral sex, but again, just saying that when you are hyper-focused on HIV, everything else, kind of goes out the window. Now, gonorrhea and chlamydia, these bacterial STIs, syphilis as well, spread very easily from oral sex. You could very easily contract those from oral sex. And since this person is so hyper-focused on HIV, he should probably know this, that having a bacterial STI like gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, more than double and in fact almost triple those numbers that Anna was talking about earlier. Okay, now this one is really interesting. This is a young man, 19 years old. He went to a resort in Cuba and had sex with another tourist there. He says that she gave him blowjob for 12 minutes. He's very specific. You can tell he's really panicked about this. He thinks that the 12 minutes is really going to influence how perfect strangers estimate his STI risk on Reddit. And then they tried to have vaginal sex. He says he penetrated her for about 5 seconds, but he couldn't get hard because he was freaking out and had a lot of anxiety and things like that. And so then he just, left her wherever they were doing this at. And he's so concerned about this that he's been calling the resort, trying to figure out who this woman is. I'm not sure how much good he thinks it's going to do if he can contact her. And, she's a 33-year-old woman, according to him. And what really cracks me up is this comment over here where somebody says, that's why you don't have sex with random that too. And I don't know what the grammar's not great there. But he wrote, if an old woman offers BJ, it also means she probably had a lot of sex with other men's, so high risk of STD.
Ooh, and this is why we don't go to Reddit. Literally, this is why you don't go to Reddit. You're going to get comments like that are not helpful, nor are they accurate at all. So, what do you think about this particular post to you that is interesting?
To me, people often get themselves in sexual situations and then blame the other person, and especially men doing that to women, and think that that person is dirty or a slut because they're doing the exact same thing that he is, which is the really crazy part of this story if you think about it. And has this the first time he ever had sex? No. Has he ever had a thorough, complete STI test? No. I can tell just by how little information he has. And so it's just as likely that he gave something to her than she gave to him. But at the end of the day, they probably didn't give anything to each other. They just tried to have a good time until his anxiety got the best of him.
I think the other thing that kind of shows through in that particular panic post is how little education people have about the transfer of STIs and their own risk. I mean, think about your high school health class. There's just not a whole lot that is spoken about in a public school setting regarding STIs. It's all fear-based because that's how they try to, I don't want to say educate or scare, but they certainly try to focus that. If you have sex with anybody at any time, you're going to get an STI. And so this kid, he's 19. So he still has that fear kind of ingrained. That's probably his most recent encounter with STI education, was that high school educational class. And I get with that type of education why this would be how he would be freaking out. But in the same breath, this is something where you can take the control. You can take the fear out of it. And that is a wonderful thing. You can educate yourself with the tools on shamelesscare.com, or you can just be thoroughly STI tested before you go on these vacations and know where you stand ahead of time and eliminate that fear that A, you're going to give anything to anybody, and that you're also going to know your stance so you can protect others and be more educated about what they can also give to you.
All right, well, now this next woman I really like. She's polyamorous. She's writing in the polyamory subreddit, and she goes on a beautifully written about 500-word rant here about people should not use the word clean to describe their STI status. She's so mad about it. In fact, she says most polyamorous people do this, people on FetLife, etc., that she's just automatically started blocking people who use that term. And I could not agree with her more. Every day at shamelesscare.com, we detect and treat sexually transmitted infections, and none of those people were dirty. And just like none of the people who test negative are clean, we're all people, and at the end of the day, having something like a trichomonas mycoplasma genitalium happens, and it doesn't mean you make anybody clean or dirty.
I absolutely agree with you, Robert. And people who do use that term often don't even know their true STI status. They don't know what they've been tested for, nor do they know how thorough that testing was. They have no idea if they've been tested for things like mycoplasma, for oral gonorrhea or chlamydia. So it's hard to even use that term when you don't know your status. Instead, you should go to Shameless Care and have the testing done there where you know you're going to have a full testing panel and know exactly what your status is.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you, Anna. All right, we'll see you guys next time.